Good afternoon, early childhood colleagues. It is 12 o'clock here in the state office. So we'll go ahead and get started. I know we'll have people joining us, but I want to know you all are busy. I want to keep you on schedule. We'll continue to admit people as they come in. So Keeler and I'll be managing that. I want to start with just a real brief conversation. We have a busy agenda today, maybe not quite as busy as it is on other meeting times, but um, kind of refreshing our memories on the LEARNS Act. I was in a conversation a few weeks ago, and it had to do with building access. And so I just wanted to talk to you all about this conversation, and it has to do with a parent who was really concerned about something. And so they start talking to me about being in their child's space where they're learning. And I immediately started having red flags about this situation. So I'm going to start with in the LEARNS Act, you may not know this because we spent a lot of time on the literacy part and the readiness part, but S is for safety. And if you've ever heard Secretary Oliva talk about this, he spends a lot of time and energy on school safety. It's really important to him. And I know he went around the state and visited school districts and was really quite amazed that there were districts where you could just walk up to a door and open it and walk in. And so, consequently, many of our schools have locked doors now and plans, for their spaces to be safe. And also spaces where parents can check in, and there's a process for that to keep it safe. So we want it to be that safe. We want it to be where parents can come in, and maybe you have partners coming in, but you want it to be safe. This conversation has to do with a parent not even being able to see where their child was learning. And so the reason given by the person was that it was a DHS requirement. And first of all, I just want to remind everyone that here in the Office of Early Childhood, we are not at DHS. So if someone at DHS is giving you instruction, please let us know, as there shouldn't be any direct involvement unless you're Medicaid funding. And I'm not aware that they have any rules about access. So I just wanted to talk about this for a moment to say, if I were a parent, and I am, and a grandparent, I would want access to see where my child is learning. So if you're having difficulty filling your building, it could be because of some of the practices you put in place that were maybe a part of COVID that have been removed really for several years now. So you want to welcome families into that space. You want to show them what their child is doing. And let me just say, for the people on this call, it's probably no one on this call that is doing this practice. There is probably no one on this call today that denies families access to the early learning spaces they've created, because I know many of you want people to see the amazing things that your teachers are doing on the daily. This was probably an outlier conversation, but when I asked a staff member about it, they said, "Oh, yeah, I do see that out in the field a lot." And I said, "I really want to talk to the providers about this because I hear about enrollment sometimes as an issue." And I'm thinking, if I were a parent, I would never enroll my child in a space that I could not walk in and see every day. So just a little reminder not to be fussy on April 1st. This is not an April Fool's joke. I really am serious. Like, you all are doing amazing things. Open your building up to let people see that. And if you have concerns about anything related to this, let us know so that we can help walk you through a process for how to do it safely. I definitely think you want to have the safety first mentality, but not letting them have access to where their children are learning, to me, is a very big concern. And I think there's a lot to be said about transparency and what we're all trying to do to keep our children safe, but also to keep parents involved in the learning aspects of it. So just wanted to spend a moment with you all on that. Happy April 1st. I'm not an April Fool's joke person. I was probably the kid on the playground who ended up with dirt on her face in some kind of joke and didn't think it was that particularly funny. I don't get jokes very often. I'm a little more serious probably than most people. But anyway, I do want to say happy April 1st and welcome to spring. It really is lovely out around the state if you all have get a chance to get out either with your children or even taking a drive over the weekend. It's just a beautiful time to be in Arkansas. So I know we have some other folks. I believe my friend and colleague I think Paige is coming up. I was going to say Jamie Ward. I know Jamie's on the call and is going to be presenting, but I'm going to let Paige. We have a provider colleague that we wanted to highlight, and we're always excited to share some exciting information about one of our own and some things that are happening to her and recognition. So, Paige, I'll let you go.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Tanya said, I am excited to be here today to have the opportunity to highlight one of our providers, Miss Kimberly Stinson. Um, Kimberly and I actually had the opportunity to meet for the first time back in 2022. She's the owner of Little Lions Daycare, and she applied for our ARPA supply building grant and was selected as a recipient of the award. With the ARPA funds, she utilized that money to expand her facility, to make some improvements to the playground so that she could serve more school age children. And one of the things that I do remember about working with Kimberly was her attention to detail. And also, I do remember from looking at her grant proposal that she was working with a lot of members of the community at the time. And it seems like that has not changed. And that's probably part of the reason why she's being recognized. The U.S., and I never knew this, I will be the first to admit, but in case you didn't know, the United States Small Business Administration actually recognizes our small business owners annually. And they select, one recipient is selected from each of the states to represent the state, and then and also our territories. They all come together, and then a national recipient is recognized. So Kimberly Stinson was selected for Arkansas, and we are so excited. She is Little Lions is a Better Beginnings Level 2 provider, and I know she's on the call. And Kimberly, sorry for talking so much, but I just couldn't help myself. I just wanted to sing your praises. So if you're here, I thought you might just want to say hello to everyone so we can thank you for your work. Well, it looks like she may not have been able to join us, but I also know something I do know about her is that she does watch the replays. So I'm sure if you all want to send your congratulations in the chat, I'm sure that she will be watching this afterwards. So way to go, Kimberly. And I think that up next we have Jamie Ward.
Thank you, Paige and Tanya, and the rest of the team for letting me join the provider call today. I'm going to share some slides. Get that going. Whoops, 1 second. There we go. Does it look okay? Okay, good. Thank you. So thank you for letting me be here. I'm Jamie Ward, and I know I've got lots of friends on the call and lots of new faces too. So I really appreciate being able to be on the provider call today and share with you a little bit about Be Well, Care Well, which is a staff well-being initiative that we have had in place here in Arkansas for goodness, going on 4.5 years now. And I'm going to share a little bit about what Be Well, Care Well is all about and tell you about the impact we've had so far in Arkansas and that we have a few spots open between now and the beginning of next school year. So I'm going to also give you an opportunity to express interest through an interest form at the end. So I do want to mention Haley Dunlap is on. She is our Be Well, Care Well program manager. And so she'll be in the chat. If you have any questions as I'm going through the slides, I'll try to stick to my 10-minute timeline here. But then we'll give you some ways that you can reach out to us if you have additional questions. So As I said, Be Well Care Well's been around in Arkansas since the end of 2020. So we have 6 coaches across the state. We cover pretty much most of the state. We've got one little corner where we have a gap, but we're able to get to folks pretty much statewide. So we're happy about that. So Be Well Care Well um, is a 12-month program where we have well-being coaches who work with childcare sites. So, big picture, we look at well-being holistically. So, we are thinking about well-being um, based on all 8 dimensions of wellness that you see on the screen. We really take a holistic approach to how we work with a site. Um, there, excuse me one second. Get on my slides there. So there are 3 components, and I'm going to share just a little bit about each of those components. But you can see here we have well-being coaches. There's a well-being committee, and then we have a well-being activities guide. This is Robin. She's one of our coaches down in Ouachita County and surrounding areas. So the first component is the well-being coach. So the well-being, once you express interest to participate in Be Well Care Well, a well-being coach reaches out to you and plans a orientation for you and your staff. And at that orientation, it's a 1-hour orientation that talks about, what is Be Well Care Well, why is it important, and sort of what the year is going to look like as we work with your site. We like for everybody to come to that orientation, teachers, cooks, drivers, the whole team, because what we're really trying to do is create and cultivate an atmosphere and a whole environment of wellness. So we want everybody to be involved in that orientation. At the end of the orientation, all the participants complete an interest survey, which then helps the coach identify those 1 or 2 dimensions of wellness that your site would be working on throughout the rest of the year. The coach does visit the site twice a month and works closely with the well-being committee, which I will share a little bit about here. So each site puts together a well-being committee. It's generally 2 or 3 people. I'm sure you can think about somebody on your team right now who's just already always excited about wellness in general. Like you've got somebody that's always eating healthy, somebody that's always wanting to run a 5K or do something to better themselves in some way. So we always want that cheerleader on the well-being committee. And then we ask for a leader to be on as well. So usually the committee is about 2 or 3 people and is really who the coach has, I'd say, most contact with, although they are having some contact with all the staff there as well. And then the third component is the well-being activities guide. So after the dimensions are decided on, the coach helps the committee develop an action plan for the year and set some goals. We have an activities guide that is a recommended. We have programs and sites that say, we already have ideas, we want to move forward with this, but what we know about humans is that when we are very stressed, it's often really difficult to come up with our own idea, our own goal about what to do next, or we choose something that's so lofty that we then give up on it because it might be unattainable. So we have a well-being activities guide that helps with that, and all the activities there are aligned with each of those 8 dimensions of wellness that I talked about. Here's some examples of some things that we've done over the past few years. Most sites like challenges, and so we do walking Wednesdays. Some have done hydration challenges. One of the roles of our coaches is to pull together all local resources, regional, state resources, and so on, and to partner with folks. So we do have a great partnership with Credit Counselors of Arkansas, who comes in and does a financial workshop with staff and this is for their own personal finances. We work with Cooking Matters, partner with them to do grocery store tours and cooking demos and those kinds of things, which have been a lot of fun, and several other things. The coaches are so creative. They come up with so many wonderful things. Um, here's some fun pictures you can see here in the middle where those twinkle lights are. The each site, every time the coach visits, the coach is bringing well-being incentives that relate to the goals. And so it might be a water bottle. It might be, you can see in the top picture, that's a menu book that they had asked for and some things to try. And then the twinkle lights are the site well-being package that each site gets at about the 6-month mark. That's a relaxation space that they've worked out in their, they've found a little nook and cranny in their site. Sometimes that just means putting adult chairs in spaces so that it's welcoming to the adults. And sometimes it means, we've had sites do like some exercise equipment or things to make healthy smoothies for themselves at lunch, whatever it might be. Team building activities, which are always a lot of fun. Over the past few years, we've been in 258. This says childcare centers, but we've actually been in a number of homes as well. So that really should say sites, 258 sites with over 3,000 participants. And you can see the approximate number of children that have been impacted. So I should say we've done an external evaluation of Be Well, Care Well, and I'll show you some of what that says. While we do not come into your site and tell you how to interact with children, that is the ultimate outcome, is that you are well, and then that translates into how you're able to care for and teach the children in your program. And what we know through our evaluation is that the more Be Well, Care Well activities a participant engages in, the higher the social emotional climate scores are in their classroom, which is what we want to see. This is just some of the high level information from surveys that we've done. Here, quickly wanted to show you some of the satisfaction ratings, all very high. I love the last one in the bottom corner there, 92% improved happiness. Isn't that what we all want in our program? So lots of really good data there. And we're also right in the middle of another evaluation of the model. So hopefully we're going to have even more data in the next couple years, next year or so, actually. I wanted to share a couple of provider testimonials, but while you're looking at this, most sites that we talk to are struggling at times with staff recruitment and with staff retention. And what we know from the folks that we've talked to who've worked with us, number one, our coaches have worked with a lot of directors and owners to even help them just rewrite their job description to add a sentence or two that says, we invest in your well-being in our facility, and this is why that's important. And, I've read some of those job descriptions and said, like, I would work there to know that I'm going to, that I am important to them as a human and they're going to invest in me. That's very important. And then we have evaluation data as well as anecdotal information from directors and owners that have said, we had folks on our team that we knew were planning to leave and they didn't, because we were able to make this a healthier environment all around. So we have that little testimonial. Here's one more. Important, you should know, here in Arkansas right now, thanks to some PDG funding and then also a private funder that we have for Be Well, Care Well. This would be at no cost to your site. So that's exciting. I do want you to take out your phone and take a picture of this QR code and fill out the interest form if you're interested. As I said earlier, we do have a few spots that are going to be coming open over the next a couple of months. We do have a wait list that we will be pulling from and that stays pretty active. So we want to get you on that wait list if you're interested. And then right after the school year starts in about September, we will have some more openings. So I'm happy to answer any questions. We have a lot of evaluation data that shows that this works. We have even more than that, story after story after story about how the well-being coaches are um, really impacting the lives of staff across the state in their support. We have just a quick little story. Just this past week, one of our coaches is in a center who unexpectedly lost a staff member. She passed away. A couple of days later, the assistant director's husband passed away unexpectedly, whose daughter also works in the facility. And so our coach, while we are not mental health specialist or therapist in any way, it is their job to go out and seek the resources that are needed that I'm sure the folks in that site don't have time to do, to go out and find. And so they are right now, today, out trying to find grief resources and other things that might be helpful for that site. And so this is actually the second time that this has happened, and our coach has been able to step in. But we've got story after story of staff coming off of blood pressure medicine because they're starting to be active. And it's not just about physical well-being, though. We think about intellectual well-being and what can we do to further our knowledge in the work that we're doing or anything that we're interested in. And then most importantly, in every dimension, there is a social piece to that, because we know as adults and as just humans in general, we're more likely to be successful if we've got somebody by our side. And so that is certainly woven into to all the pieces of it too. So we're happy to answer any questions. Haley's in the chat. I'll stay on for the remainder of the call, or you can reach out to us on any of the ways you see on the screen. And I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Jamie, and thanks, Haley. We appreciate you all at Be Well, Care Well. I've seen lots of nice comments from folks who have real life experience. So encourage you all to take advantage if it's something that would be helpful at your facility and your team. So just read those comments. We next have Patricia Johnson on our team. And I know a lot of folks have already gone through this process. This is really for programs maybe that haven't done it, and for those who may go back and watch the recording who haven't. The process for becoming, and I'm going to use our SRA, School Readiness Assistance, formerly Child Care Development, CCDF funded slots, but it really applies to any of the funding that you would be paid for by the state, whether it's federal or state funding. Arkansas Better Chance. One of the things, besides being licensed and meeting some of our criteria, is you have to be set up as a state vendor. And many times I work with programs that don't understand that does not happen in Tanya's office or the Office of Early Childhood. It happens externally with other state partners in finance administration, if you can imagine that, with the state paying funds out of what we call ACES. It's our payment system for the state. So I wanted Patricia to talk a little bit about that. I will tell you, if it's something you want to do, as many of you know, we have a waiting list right now, so we're not adding children in child care assistance. But it is something, if you're ever interested in taking children who are paid for through our School Readiness Assistance or CCDF grant, getting set up is a bit of a hurdle. And so it'd be a good time just to be ready for it, even if we're not adding children. So I wanted Patricia to talk about that. I do want to also just share that, we work with other partners in the state, and we're told like this can take up to, 4 to 8 weeks to be set up. And so I'm only repeating what we're being told by the people who actually set the vendor process up. I have seen some things lately where it does not take that long. And so I just want you to, that's what they tell us. So Patricia's really talking about the steps that it takes for you to become a vendor with the Office of Early Childhood to really accept any of our funding, but especially our SRA funding. So Patricia, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks, Tanya. So I'm gonna just mention some of the things that will require you to submit your information and also become a vendor. I know some of you all are already vendors, but what if you're thinking about selling your facility to another person? Maybe you may have an address change or direct deposit information has changed. Any of those changes that will warrant a new W-9 form should be submitted to Office of State Procurement, and that information is here on this first slide with the link. Make sure you include a permanent check because temporary checks are not allowed. They do, however, accept a bank letter or an authorization for a direct deposit information generated form from the bank. So you want to make sure that the information has the account holder's name, meaning if you have a business name, this isn't a business account. If it's a personal account, make sure that it's matching the information that's in our system as well, making sure your tax ID number and everything else is matching in that form. What to expect. Once you submit your information over, as Tanya stated, sometimes they have taken up to 8 weeks to get your information processed. But if you fail to submit the W-9 form, because they do request that information, their processing time could be longer. Especially if you're going to be selling your facility, or if you have some type of bank change information and you're waiting on payment to be dispersed, that could delay processing time. So you want to make sure that you submit that W-9 form. Once you receive the confirmation back, you can always send an email to our person that processes that information, Savannah Sutherland, or if you are becoming a new vendor, or if you're changing your tax ID number, I forgot to mention that. Sometimes we have a facility that go from one entity to another entity, they're changing their tax ID number. You want to make sure you get that information back to us because that is how you're actually going to get paid. And the SRA authorization are actually key to a facility. We have to have that vendor number in order to pay you. So you want to make sure you get that information back to us as soon as possible. If you have any questions related to becoming a participant, it's totally voluntary. My information is here, and also my colleagues' information is here as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Patricia. I see one question in the chat box about the wait list. So I was typing a response, but I'll just answer the question. There is no change to the wait list. We continue to be at the very top of our budget. We haven't seen a lot of families come off. There's a small number that are starting to roll off. Sometimes due to the age of the child, maybe due to some of the eligibility criteria that we've had to add. But right now, we will continue to use the wait list. And I apologize. We are all very sorry for that, but we're excited to be serving all the families that we're able to serve. So just hang with us. I'm not aware of any changes federally in the funding that would allow us to do anything differently at this point. So just continue. We'll continue to maintain the wait list as long as we need to, and keep you updated on this call if there are any changes to announce. I do want to just highlight Patricia's comments. You know, I talked about new providers, but I do see a fair number of providers that are already set up, but then they make changes and they do not realize the impact of their changes. So changes to banking information, for example, or changes to a tax ID number, all of those things immediately impact your payment. And the folks over at the Department of Finance Administration have to work with you to get things set up. And so one of the things that happened recently is someone had changed their TIN number, and we were able to get all of that, corrected with them. And then the check was sent and they had the wrong mailing address. So make sure that you go into both ELS and any other, like make sure that payment side, that your information is updated. Maybe sometimes you've had a PO box and you've changed it to a physical address or vice versa. But if you change any of those things, it can have an impact. The checks are generally direct deposit, and the Department of Finance Administration is big advocates for that. Occasionally, because of certain things, we may have to do a mail check for someone, but it is not the desire of the Department of Finance Administration, and they do fuss about our providers whenever they want things mailed out. They really want things to be direct deposited. I think it leaves a very strong audit trail for everyone and for them. And so I just encourage you, to utilize that. But I did want Patricia to talk about this because, it's very frustrating, I know, for everyone. And we feel very frustrated for the providers whenever they're not going to get paid and we have no control over any of these changes happening. And I always tell Patricia, like, oh gosh, I wish they had called first and we could have talked to them and advised them, don't change your banking information. Like, it really becomes, a delay in payment if you change 10 TIN numbers or tax ID numbers, if you change your banking information, and it is completely out of our control. And we do apologize for that, but we do want you to be successful and to help. And so we're just wanted to give you the information so that you'd be aware of what we have from our colleagues at the Department of Finance Administration who set up the vendor side of things and help us navigate through that. So again, we'll help you navigate, but it can delay your payment. And we just wanted to make sure you had that information, and we wanted to spend some time on this call. I didn't see any other questions. So I think that might be it. Our next call is May 6th at noon. And so we look forward to seeing you then. I just do want to encourage you and just put a little plug for the local lead in your area. Make sure that you're connecting with them and networking with them. They also will continue to be an information network for us, and we push information to them. So they're a great partner. I want to encourage you to utilize your local lead and use the website if you're not familiar with that. And also, just because Kim wasn't on the call today, or if she was being very quiet, just a big round of applause for her as Small Business Administrator here in Arkansas. And I know we have many providers in the childcare world, which is very new to the Department of Ed, to have private businesses, but it is so exciting. And I just want to share with you all, and I don't even know if we've talked to Kim yet, but Secretary Oliva wanted to make sure that she gets highlighted at state board meetings. So I wanted to share here first, but and the meeting next week at state board is pretty packed, but hopefully in May or June, we'll be highlighting her in front of the State Board of Education if Kim is able to come and be a part of that. We really want to recognize her and do that in a way. I hope the local lead equally will do some things to recognize her work in her community, but it is just such an honor to have one of our colleagues acknowledged nationally for her work and what she's done. So also Jennifer Douglas on our team has put the town hall, which is going to be coming up at the end of April. We'll start town halls again around the state, and it is new communities. It may not be too far from where we were before, but I'm going to be selecting new places. We will do this in the spring and probably again in the fall, but it's been a great way for my team, for myself, to be out in the state and spend time with you all and listen to concerns that you may have, or just do some shout outs and hopefully joys as well. But I look forward. I'm really excited about April and May and being able to come around the state and spend time. So I hope you'll be able to take off and do that. If not, maybe I'll see you in the fall if you're not able to do the spring meetings. But Jennifer's dropped the schedule in for that, and we'll just be doing updates. And again, it's your time with us to share concerns that you may have. But we just appreciate all of you so much for what you do every day. I wish there was money dropping from the sky today on April 1st for all the work that you do to repay you financially for what you do. But I will tell you, you are touching the future every single day and you don't even realize it. And we see so many things here in the Office of Early Childhood, but what you all are doing is amazing. And if you don't get told that, just know that. Take advantage of the resources that we shared today and take care of yourselves until we see you again in May. Look forward to it. Thank you.